That's Joe Buck with the call of the ALCS, which he will have Game 5, the call of later this afternoon alongside Harold Reynolds and Tom Verducci on FS1 with coverage beginning at 3 Eastern time right as this show ends. And also coming to this audience network on November 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern time, a new series with Joe Buck, Undeniable with Joe Buck on DirecTV audience. Channel 239 and on Uverse on channel 1114. There's a lot of channels on that Uverse. And joining me from Toronto right now is Joe Buck. How are you, Joe?
I'm good, Rich. How in the world are you? I'm watching the Royals take batting practice, and yesterday at different points during the game, it looked like they were taking batting practice.
Yes, it did.
They just took it to Toronto, and this is one terrific Royals team we're watching, and we'll see if Toronto can slow their roll here in a couple hours.
So is this the point where you decide which team you're rooting hard for and then broadcast that way?
Yeah.
Joe, is that what this part of the day
I've
of your
already
preparation?
determined that. I've determined that. And the answer to that question is if you live in Toronto, I'm rooting for Kansas City. If you live in Kansas City, I'm rooting for Toronto. And if you live in St. Louis, I'm somehow rooting for the Cubs, even though I'm not doing that series.
I was about to say, how many complaints have you gotten about Ernie Johnson's call where people think it's you, Joe? How many have you gotten already the last few months?
Well, I can honestly say that while I went on a little Twitter barrage before the start of the postseason, I took the liberty, and I hope it's okay with the social media world, and I beg their forgiveness if it's not, but I took it off my phone until the baseball playoffs are over because I just get sick and tired of reading and looking at all the junk that comes my way, which literally you could cut and paste from every year over the last, I can't say 20 years because social media wasn't around back in '96, but whenever that mess all started.
Well, I mean, Joe, I was surprised you got back on it. I know you were on it, and then you were off it for some time at Buck.
Well, one of the reasons is that damn show you just talked about. I can't wait to start the show. I can't wait to get it on the air and have people see. I think the first one they're going to run is the Jeter interview, which is really cool, and it's something, I don't know if we're going to get into that in this segment or not.
Sure, let's do it.
I think it's a worthwhile show because you get a chance, I think, to learn who these people are more than, a SportsCenter soundbite or something after a game or them talking about going 2 for 5, which becomes, ridiculous after a while. And I think we all think we know who Wayne Gretzky is or who Jeter is, or we think we know how they grew up, but they never really are given that chance to do it. So what we found was these guys and gals were willing to really open up, and you start to learn about these people in a way that I never expected as the host of the show, and I think it'll catch some of the audience by surprise because they were so open. But that's a long way of saying I got back on Twitter because it seemed like to be off it for 2 years and then come back on and say, hey, everybody, I've got a new show. It's called Undeniable on DirecTV. Why don't you check it out? People would be like, shut up even more.
Well, I mean, but the people that you're sitting down with, I mean, Michael Phelps, Gretzky, Jeter, I mean, you're
Aikman, I don't know how I secured that interview, but I'll tell you, even I learned stuff about Troy, and I consider him one of my closest friends. That I never knew. And I will tell you, I think we did 13. 12 of the 13 at some point teared up, including Jeter, during the course of their time out there. And these guys were sitting out there for 2.5 hours. The Phelps one, I think, will be really emotional to watch just because of where he's been, the highs and the really low lows, and him talking about contemplating suicide and things that I didn't expect him to reveal when he sat out there. But for whatever reason, they would sit in that chair in front of this audience and really get into it. And we were so thankful when they did. And I think it's what makes the show really worthwhile to watch.
Joe Buck joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show from inside. It's a Rogers Center, right? Because every time I still go Skydome. You know what I mean? It's tough for me.
It is Skydome. I know that's not what they call it, but I'm pretty sure this is the same venue that opened in 1989.
It is that. What makes the Royals so good, Joe? What makes them so good? It's tough to put your finger on it sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you, here's what makes them good. 2 things. we were saying this last night, either on the air when we were walking out of the booth. I've done this for a long time now, and I know you're a Yankee fan, and I would say that 98 Yankee team is the closest comparison to what we're seeing with this Royals club.
No kidding.
The Yankees had Brocious hitting down at the bottom of the lineup. They were good 1 through 9. I could make the argument that this lineup, although maybe not as dynamic with the home run ball, but with their aggression, with the way they keep coming at you, with the balance that they have, lefty and righty, this is the best lineup I've seen top to bottom in the postseason in my time covering baseball. And then you combine that, I would say, with an okay starting group. They've got some dynamic arms, but they're not, shut down guys, I would say. But when you get into the 6th inning, it can be lights out with Hochevar, Ryan Madsen, Danny Duffy, the left-hander, and then obviously Herrera and Wade Davis. Good luck. You want to try to mount a rally against that group. It's just not going to happen. So I would say lineup balance and just relentless 1 through 9. A guy like Rios hitting 9th, and a bullpen that is the best group I've seen and better than they were a year ago.
Meanwhile, the Cubs are trying to attempt what you witnessed in person, what the Red Sox did to the Yankees in 2004. Is there any comparison between the two teams that you can maybe draw to give the Cubs fan base a little bit of optimism going into this Game 4 tonight, trying to pull off what the 04 Sox did, Joe?
Well, I thought it was a good move by Theo to sign Kevin Millar this morning. I don't know if you saw that.
Roberts,
so Cowboy up, Chicago. Cowboy up.
Did he sign Roberts too?
No, I just think I think obviously it's stacked against him, and it's only happened one time. And if it were to happen here, it would just add to what I think people think is this, inevitable march to a world championship for the first time since 1908. Whether that happens in 2015 or next year or the year after, they're good, they're young. The same thing you can say about the Mets. But the Mets, I don't see them slowing anybody down right now. I don't see anybody getting at that rotation for 4 straight. They are in a position with these young guys where they're not good now. They're going to be good for a long time. I mean, I know what the flux capacitor told us in Back to the Future, and we're all going to, Mayor Goldie Wilson, it was in the past, and Biff, take your damn hands off her, all that, and the Cubs are going to win the World Series. Maybe they just clicked it 1 year too short. And maybe it was supposed to say 2016. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see the comeback happening. If it does, then, if the Cubs were to get to the World Series and win it, coming back down 3-0 against the Mets, the world will stop spinning. That's my prediction.
Joe Buck joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you are going to be then switching gears regardless of how the ALCS plays out to go to
I think it's irregardless.
MetLife?
I think that's the proper word.
Is it irregardless?
No, it's not. That's
no, I know. I'm just trying to make sure I've got the syllables right, Joe. I try to be, I try to be accurate on the polysyllabic situation.
No, I know you do.
But you're going to MetLife regardless of what happens in the ALCS? You're going to go call that game? Okay.
Either way, I'm going to get there somehow. We're just talking about it. If this series goes back to Kansas City, I don't know what the issue would be or how it would play out if there's a rain out. Because if there's a rain out and the weather's not supposed to be that great in Kansas City this weekend, then it could bleed over in a Game 7 on Sunday. So I'll be one place or the other.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll be football or baseball at this point, but as of right now, I'm scheduled to do the Cowboys and the Giants on Sunday.
Okay, so who should be on call? Is it Tom Brenneman's on call? Who's sitting by the?
All these other guys, you think Brenneman, Kenny Albert, but all those guys are doing their own football with their own crews. So I'm gonna say Vasgersian. I'm gonna say Matt Vasgersian at
he's on
MLB
the clock.
Network.
He's on the clock.
Yeah. He's on the clock.
Okay.
Get your best suit pressed and your best shirt-tie combination.
Right,
Game 7 may be yours.
I got it. I hear you. So with the Giants and the Cowboys, that's a pretty big game too right there now. I mean, Matt Castle coming off the bye week. They're 2-3. That's a pretty big one that you got going on, Joseph.
Yeah, they just had their 4th kid. I just read about that. And Des Bryant, Jerry Jones says Des Bryant's good to go as long as he can cut and run. And so Jerry's now the owner, general manager, and general practitioner, the doctor, the general for the Dallas Cowboys. I still think that's a stretch. I mean, he hasn't been on the field yet. I don't know why you force it.
Exactly.
I don't know if you're Dallas or anybody at this point in the season in that division why you press anything like that. But who knows what it's going to take to win that division? It might be 9 wins. It might be less.
I think so. Yeah, this could be the NFC South.
Up.
Yeah, this could be the 2014 NFC South and 2015 in the East. And also Jerry Jones, future undeniable guest. He
was unbelievable. I mean, there was and I love him. I've always liked him a lot, but his family was backstage, and he wanted to do it because he wanted kind of a one-stop shop for kind of a career life retrospective, and the way he grew up, and bringing in singing acts for his dad's grocery store. I mean, he learned this whole kind of P.T. Barnum act from his dad, and he got emotional, man, like you can't believe. And he just come off his first hip operation. Then he had a second hip operation. So he was great. And there's a moment in there, which I hope they don't cut out, him talking about a girlfriend that broke up with him when they were in college, and the advice and the demand that his dad gave to him when that happened. It's priceless television when he turns to the camera and says what his dad told him. The cool thing is these guys can also be themselves, and there's not really any language issues. I mean, if you want to say, potty mouth words, you can do that.
Well, Joe, I'd love to have you back on closer to the premiere of that.
Have I bored you yet?
No, come on, man. You're almost going to make me cry because you're going full Firestone now on everybody. Clearly, that's what you're doing right now.
I hope to be and I know Roy is still, doing his thing.
Yeah, in Vegas.
And Roy Firestone will always be Roy Firestone, but I want to be the 2010s and beyond Roy Firestone.
Attaboy.
Here in 2015, I'm gonna make somebody cry.
Well, look, have a good call today on Sunday wherever you are, and look, and I'm thrilled about your new show. You just didn't have to name it after my love for you, Joe. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate that.
It's actually the name of my dog.
Oh, is that right?
Come here, Undeniable. Come here.
Take care, Joe.
All right, buddy.
You bet. It's at Buck on Twitter. There's Joe Buck. You're on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.